Welcome to Automate Your Agency. Every week, we bring you expert insights, practical tips, and success stories that will help you streamline your business operations and boost your growth. Let's get started on your journey to more efficient and scalable operations.
This isn't a question that we get asked maybe ever.
No, nobody wants to talk about this.
They do now. Two people do.
People do, me and you do.
You and I do, because we've made this mistake and we've seen other people make this mistake. And that's looking at somebody who's really great at their job and thinking as a leader or as a founder, man, if they could just train everybody else to do how they're doing it and manage the team, then my life would be so much easier.
Yeah, we take that top performer and we think we're doing them a favor by promoting them to manager. But we're I loved that you called them creators. Mm-hmm. We've got, when I think about these roles, it's salespeople, where they like creating sales. That's their thing that keeps them motivated. Or software developer, they are creating code that actually gets made into a software or website.
Yes, they're creating solutions.
Yeah, or even a solutions architect on our team where,
yes.
Again, going back to solutions, they are creators creating these things. And we tell them, you're amazing at being creatives, but instead, we want you to manage people and processes.
Yes.
Very different.
But at first glance, I know when we did this, we would promote in air quotes here, and then the people that we promoted would just falter and fail and lose attention to detail. All the indicators that something is wrong.
Yeah.
And I know, I shouldn't speak for you. I know I looked at that and went, man, that sucks. Guess they can't handle the pressure or something to that degree, right? So
avoiding the truth that they just needed to stay in their position.
Yeah, so let's unpack that, because the reality is we're saying you love being a creative, your skill set's being creative, creating solutions, building stuff. And instead of doing that, which you're skilled at and love, we're going to put you in a position where you have to manage people, which is totally different.
Very different.
Totally different. Now,
and you don't necessarily have to be skilled at the position to be a great manager.
Yeah, you have to be a great manager to be a great manager.
You don't have to know how to develop every single piece of code to manage a software development team.
Nope, you sure don't. It can help.
Yes, absolutely. You don't want somebody flying blind every day.
Right.
But you don't have to be the most skilled to manage people.
They can leverage the top performers and then go in and get the feedback that they need. But you do need, when you hire somebody to manage a team, you need to have somebody that is good at managing, good at people, and you mentioned it earlier, good at processes. They need to be able to look at what the team is doing of all the creators and say, how do we make it better? How do we reduce complexity? How do we make it more simple? How do we increase the quality of life for our developers or our salespeople?
Yeah, and I think process is a big thing that people forget when they're hiring managers, because that is how you keep things from getting into chaos zone at your company. And so they need to be good. They may not be great at looking at a bigger picture and creating a process, but they need to be good at managing a process.
Yes.
And that's where there's a very different type of person from a manager that makes sure everybody is following the process versus a creator that just wants to take it and run.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. In fact, one of the reasons that we're talking about this on this episode is because we recently just interviewed somebody. So this is like, I like bringing this back down to dollars for businesses and founders, especially when we're talking about agencies, and turnover is brutal. Yeah. And so we just got done with an interview earlier today, actually. And the person on the interview said that they were looking for a new job because they got promoted to a manager. They're really good at automation. They're really good at creating solutions. And guess what? That's all they want to do.
Yeah.
They don't want to manage people. So now, whatever company they work for is going to lose a top performer.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, I don't want to do management. So even by making this decision, you could go in and you could be creating turnover. You could be losing people because of that dynamic shift that you're creating.
Absolutely. And I can see where we've been at fault and where other companies are at fault is because you want to keep those top performers at your company. Mm-hmm. And you get to a place where you're like, how do I keep helping them feel fulfilled at their job and make more money and do whatever it is that they want to do, but without giving them the manager piece.
Yes.
And so that's where it gets difficult. And so you really have to work with that top performer. Like, what I would see at the car dealerships that would do it right, because we used to work with only car dealerships back in our previous company. And I would see the dealerships that did this poorly, and they would put them into a sales manager position, and the person would be miserable, and they'd leave within a year.
Yep.
They would then, what do you want to stay successful selling cars? And the person would be like, well, I'd like to have an assistant to help do some of the nitty gritty that I don't want to do. Fantastic. We'll get you an assistant. A very cheap person in the grand scheme of things that keeps that salesperson focused.
Yep.
Or for a software developer, Micah, you could probably talk to this better than me with with your background in managing, but you don't have to give them the small, tedious tasks that they don't like doing. They want to work on bigger projects.
Right. Right. And it's exactly, I don't know that I have anything else to add. It's almost the exact same scenario. It's making their quality of work life better. Mm-hmm. One thing that I've noticed kind of on this tangent is that a lot of the people that are in love and get rewarded from creating stuff, that's their motivation. Salespeople are a slightly different breed with this, of course, because they are typically money motivated. Mm-hmm. But when you get into developers and engineers and even solution architects on our team where they're building automation, mm-hmm. money is not the leading aspect that mm-hmm. they're going for. They want enough money to live their life the way that they want to live it. Mm-hmm. And they want, obviously a fair wage and all of that stuff. But adding more money to that at some point is just diminishing returns. I know with our last business, there were crunch times, mm-hmm. and this is after a merger, so we had other leadership in place. But there was a lot of discussion of let's pay them more to work on the weekends. Well, at some point, that is just done.
Yeah.
The team just does not want to work on the weekends anymore, no matter how much money you throw at them.
Exactly. And a lot of times money doesn't solve the problem. Even with a salesperson, if they're having to work all the time, they want to have a work-life balance, whatever it might be. But it sounds so overused. But talking with that team member, that's a top performer, and how do they see their progression within the company?
Yes. Because
management is probably not in what they want to do. But being a part of leadership decisions, future things that the company sells, aspects that they see could be added to their services or whatever it is that you're selling, those kind of things, they want to be a leader in those things typically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have the insight. They're the ones talking to the customers. They can be very valuable in those types of discussions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're generalizing a bit in this discussion mm-hmm. to do this. But the main, I think, point that you're bringing up, which I really, really like, is that we have the ability to talk to these people. And there are diamonds in the rough where there are salespeople who are starting to think process-minded. They are starting to think, man, I really would like to manage this team. Mm-hmm. I think I'm ready to change my perspective, because there's also we talked about the case where it's not the right time to promote them just because the founder feels like it's the right time to promote them.
Yeah.
But there's definitely the flip side where the team member is going, I'm kind of getting bored. I've been doing this for 3 years. I've been doing this for 5 years. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of getting bored with this. I'd like another challenge.
Right.
And that, when they're at that stage, that's kind of the, but you don't know unless you talk to them. Mm-hmm. So you have to talk to them. They have to be at the right stage. And then you have to get buy-in would management, would creating the systems. Because a lot of times that I noticed with my team, especially on the development side and the team that we have now, is that there's, when they start to see the things that could be done differently, that could be improved, and they start to vocalize those are your indicators that you have somebody who might be ready for management. Now,
right.
It's also up to us and the people listening who run companies. It's their responsibility to train the people, to give them support, because being a manager, just like being a founder, just like being a CEO, you're not born with this skill.
Yeah.
Some people naturally
are better at it
than others,
Yeah.
but everybody can learn. And as a founder, right, when you're starting to see these indicators that, all right, they're bored, you might lose that top performer just because they're bored and you didn't give them an outlet.
Right.
So then it's time to explore, could they help me build processes? Could they help me manage these people? Could they do all that? But then also provide the right structure and the right stability and the right training to help them strengthen the skills that they want to with leading people, being a manager, doing all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And and everybody is different. You might have a top performer, but they're just doing the top performing so they can get to the management spot. Like for me, I don't want to stay doing top performer things because I want
now you tell me.
Because I want other people to do them.
Yes.
I want to lay out what the process is going to be. This is how you do it, and then take me out of it. That's I don't want to be in that. That burns me out faster than anything else.
Well, let's rewind. I don't know, 10 years. What happened? When we first met and we first started working together, that was the exact same scenario.
Yeah.
You were like, Micah, we need to talk. And you were a top performer. And I was thinking, oh shit, she's going to quit. My top performer is going to quit. And we sat down and you're like, no, here's how we should do it.
Yeah.
And let me manage it and let me hire.
Yeah.
And let me build this team back up.
Yeah.
And from that point on, we worked together. But that was it. That's a perfect scenario where you got to know a specific role. Yeah. You were a top performer, and then you spoke up. And if we would have never had that chat, you would have been like, peace out.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm done. I can't handle this anymore. And so everybody has their own, I would say, limit or ability to vocalize that too. Like, you and I had a great relationship.
Yeah,
and
I'm definitely more on the aggressive, assertive side to share those.
You were willing to be vocal and chat. Other people who are not are just going to quit or they're going to stop being the top performer and just accept a paycheck. And you kind of have that whole scale that you need to balance from. And so as a leader or a manager, you need to be able to identify your team members and where they're at on that, but also ignite that conversation. Like, truthfully, if I was a better leader at that time, not saying I'm a better leader now, but at that time, I should have noticed your indicators and had a conversation with you before you were forced to have a conversation with me. And the easy way to do that is to set up be aware of all this stuff that we're talking about and set up a quarterly check-in or a monthly check-in, one-on-ones. How are things going? What are you feeling?
Yeah.
And then just like a teacher teaching a small class gets to know all their students, a manager gets to know their team members and can identify, okay, let's not make the mistake of promoting somebody to management who doesn't want to be a manager. And then let's support and encourage the people that are good and do want to be managers. And every once in a while, I would say, I was thinking about our last business, every once in a while, you'll have subpar performers that are actually better managers.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier in this episode, is that you don't have to be a top performer to be a great manager. All right. So, we've given people a lay of the land, Micah, on, do you promote your top performer? What are some other options? And looking at, it can kind of feel a little bit overwhelming because I'm like, oh my gosh, now I need to make sure I'm talking quarterly with my team. And how do you structure this so it doesn't feel overwhelming? And I think one of the best things that we started doing with our team and doing check-ins is we structure all of this in our project management system.
Yeah.
And it's recurring tasks. Every quarter, it gets assigned with the person that it's going to meet with. They get a task 2 weeks ahead of our meeting as well, so that they can put what they're thinking over the next 2 weeks and prepare. Because the worst thing you want is to feel abrupt, like, oh my God, I've got this meeting today at 1:00 and I haven't thought about this, so I'm just going to put a bunch of crap together, off the top of my head. No, like both you and the other person need to be prepared So structuring this in your project management system where it's automated, you're not having to think about it. And it's automatically going to assign and say, hey, in 2 weeks, you've got this coming up. Have some questions already outlined, like from a template that they can answer. And then you're both working on a structure and giving yourself time to think through things, where improvements are, where would I like to go, where would I like to see you, are we on the same page?
I love this. We've been doing this for so long that I actually forgot the inverse of what happens if you don't do it this way. And that's before we had this scheduled out. And I guess I should start by saying this. Because we have it scheduled out, both the managers or leadership or us and the team members have clear expectations, and it's predictable, and they understand why we're meeting. Mm-hmm. When you don't have this set up, it would be like, hey, Alane, can we meet tomorrow? And then Alane is going to freak out all night because what the hell is this meeting about?
Exactly.
Am I getting fired? Mm-hmm. What is this about? And there's no chance to prepare. There's no context given. There's no insight. You have no idea what is going to happen in this meeting. And then multiply that by everybody on your team, and that can create huge, like, just anxiety and stress and issues.
Or these meetings never happen, and the person goes to work for someone else.
Yep.
Because all that time you just invested in them, training them over the period of time they've been with you, they just walked out the door. And all it would take is a 30-minute check-in quarterly. Those go such a long way.
Yeah. Totally.
And then you're on the same page and can support them in the goals that they want.
Yep. Love it. All right, so that's how to be mindful of who you hire as a manager as you're scaling your team.
Yeah.
Don't make the same mistakes we did.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Automate Your Agency. We hope you're inspired to take your business to the next level. We have free content and tools for automating your business at our website, workdayninja.com.
And join us next week as we dive into more ways to automate and scale your business.
Bye for now.